YouTube, do you fear from getting on? So today is service day on the Benelli, so let me show you the bike and what we're going to do on the bike. It's a 2021 Benelli TRK502 and I'm going to do a engine service comprising of oil filter, spark plugs, and I'm going to clean the foam air filter that's in it. They didn't have it in stock. I'll show you the tools that I need for this job today. Doing the engine is actually quite simple. One tool, which is a 19mm socket, and then you need a tool for taking off the oil filter, and let me show you what I've got. Okay, so pair of rubber gloves, keep the hands somewhat clean. I'd get dirty in the clean room. Homemade oil pan, so it's an old oil container with a cutout in it so I can drain the oil. You've got a ratchet extension and a 19mm socket for the sump drain, which is on the left side of the bike as you're sitting on it. And then I've got this oil filter removal tool, which is a chain-based one for spinning off the oil filter, which is here on the front of the bike. So in addition to doing the oil, I'm also going to do the spark plugs and the air filter. This is the replacement oil filter I got from Benelli, and this is the recommended oil from Benelli for the bike that I also got from the main Benelli dealer. Start by undoing the oil filler cap so we release any vacuum that's in the engine. Makes the oil flow out a bit better, or so I've heard. So just leave that up there. Then it's round to the left side of the bike as you're sitting on it, and undo this 19mm bolt and position your oil pan, or be ready to move it in case the oil runs out further than you expect it to. So I can't do this with one hand, so let me get the bolt out, and if I can show you the oil flowing out, I will. The oil came out very fast and I spilt some, but it's on I've got an old rubber mat on the floor here. So the oil coming out is okay. I've seen worse, I've seen better. This has been about 5,500 kilometers since it's been serviced, so I would expect the oil to be good. Just wiping some of the oil from the drip onto the cloth, so you can see it's still fairly golden, which is good. It still has a good mineral content in it and isn't blackened or fully burnt. Before I drained the oil out, I started the bike and let it run for a couple of minutes just to warm the oil out. Warmer oil flows better. It also gets up around parts of the engine, and the warm oil will flow back down. Anything in there that shouldn't be in there would be washed down to the oil and into the sump. So we are on the last few drips. Let me just show you here. So the last few drips of oil coming out, and then I'll go to the front here, reposition the oil pan and take out the oil filter itself. So I've just temporarily put the oil drain plug back in, and I'm moving on to reposition the can and take the oil filter itself off. This is the first time I've actually used a box of oil. So I've popped that little perforated cap down, lift open the flap, and I've now got a bag of oil. So this is some way being more eco-friendly, so you're not generating another plastic tub of oil like this. But the downside is then you don't have a oil can for repurposing as a oil drain. So I now have to get some oil out of this and into the filter and get the filter back on. Putting oil into the oil filter using this box of oil was not easy. As you can see, I've spilt a little bit, but I poured into here so I wouldn't get it on the ground, but yet I still did. Right there. So there is a downside to using this box cube of oil or box of oil, is that you don't know how much oil is left in it, where if you've got the 4-litre plastic container, it generally has a window on the side to show you how much oil is left. So I suppose with this, you're supposed to decanter this into a measuring jug and then use the measuring jug to fill the engine with the right capacity of oil. So that's what I'm going to do. I've put in a close to 3 litres, maybe a little bit less, maybe a bit more. So I'm going to go down and pour what's left in this into a measuring jug, and hopefully I've got above a litre, and then whatever's above a litre I will put back into the engine. pretty well. There's the 1 litre mark. So I've got about just under half a litre to put into the bike. So I'll bring this up and put the rest of the oil in. Okay, so that's the oil fully topped up to 3 litres, which is the capacity for this engine. This is the 502. So oil is done. Next thing I'm going to move on to now is removing the fuel tank so I can get to the airbox. So I can do 2 things there. 1, clean the filter that's in the airbox, and 2, remove the airbox and replace the spark plugs. So I have about another hour's work ahead of me. Some plastics to remove, the tank to remove, airbox to remove, and clean the foam air filter. The Benelli dealer did not have the filter in stock. It was going to be another week, so it is actually a foam filter, so I'm going to clean it with petrol and then put a light covering of some of this engine oil onto the filter, and then refit the same filter back to the bike. Taking the bike off the central stand and rock the bike left and right, and doing an inspection on the oil. So I have the stand down on the left side. You can see the oil going out of the window, and that's the bike about center there, and I marked up to the upper point, which is what I expect. So I'll start the engine and check the levels again. On to the second part of the job, which is replacing the spark plugs. Okay, to get the fuel tank cover off, I initially thought you'd have to take this panel off and this panel off, but you don't. Undo the screw here, undo the screw there, and it gives you enough room to pry it back. You need to be careful up here with the paintwork when you're taking the panel off. Same on the right side of the bike, and the same for the screw hole here that connects to the plastics that connect to the tank, and the same with the screw there. Just gives you enough wiggle room just to pry the panel back enough to get it out. But be careful when you're taking this top panel off not to mark your paintwork here and here. I've lifted the tank off. I've got a couple of cables to undo underneath, and you have to take the vent pipes off as well. Fuel tank off. There is 2 10mm bolts here. Take them out, and there is 2 Allen keys here. Take them out. They're actually larger than the normal screw, but the normal Allen keys, just one up from this. So take them out, and then you can pivot the tank up. The tank, you've got 2 electrical connections to unplug. This will be for the fuel pump. So you've got the first one here. There's a clip on the side that stays on the bike. Just push that back and that clip pops out. This one here is a little bit trickier, so I've propped the tank up with a bit of wood, and I also then have to undo the fuel filter, or the main fuel pipe. So I'll have to put the phone down to undo this, the electrical connector and the fuel connector, and then I can lift the tank out of the way. So before I take the fuel line out, I'm just going to set a cloth down because this will leak out a bit of fuel. This connector here is a bit of a pain in the ass. It's got 2 little speed clips in here that you can't pry open with your hand. So I'm going to have to get a small screwdriver just to pry those connections back and then pop the plug out. Okay, so to get this electrical connection unplugged, I'm just going to use a pointed nose screwdriver I have, and then just pry it into here just to take out the 2 connections. Fuel tank is now off, and in true Chinese fashion, you've got this 500 Benelli TRK trying to pretend to be a GSA. Styling is quite similar, and I've got a 1250 GSA, and I would agree they look similar. So this is obviously the Chinese half weight of the BMW full weight. So the next job is to get the airbox out. Before I take the airbox out, I'm actually going to take the filter out. All of these screws around the perimeter of the airbox have to come out. And to get the lid off the airbox, you also then have to take these 2 bolts out. And then that will free up the airbox from the fuel intake below and the air intake below. The 8 screws around the perimeter of the airbox are all exactly the same. It's a Phillips with a coarse thread, all the same size, all the same length. So you don't have to put them back in same places. Any screw will do in any one of the 8 holes for it. The bolts for the airbox have a, I'm going to call it a brass spacer. So just make sure that you get both parts when you take the bolt. I wouldn't fancy fishing in around here for any of these at a later stage. So I have that one loosened off. And when you take the bolt out, bring the spacer with it. So they're both in the pocket. So that's now the airbox ready to come up. I'm going to take the lid off first and inspect the airbox for any other large debris, and then get the foam filter washed in petrol and then soaked in a small bit of oil. One final screw I just forgot in here, so I'll undo this one and that should allow me to take the lid off the airbox. So 9 screws holding the airbox down, or holding the lid down, and then 2 screws or 2 bolts holding the airbox to the frame. The lid off the airbox, and this is the filter. So it's got a plastic cover, just lifts off, and then this is the foam filter itself. So yeah, pretty dirty. I'll give that a good clean. I'm going to clean it in petrol, let it dry, and then I'm going to put a little bit of oil over it. I would replace this, but they didn't have one in stock. To get the airbox out, there's 2 final screws to undo, and this is on these Jubilee clips. One on the left, one on the left, one on the right. So undo the screws there, and that will take the rubber mounts off the air intakes for the fuel system. So I have some petrol. It's actually got 2-stroke in it. It's petrol I use for the chainsaw. That's why it's red. There's the air filter, and then I've actually got this K&N air filter cleaning kit for K&N air filters. So I will use a bit of the cleaner, which is this one, and a bit of the oil, which is this one, and I'll coat, after cleaning, I'll coat the air filter in a bit of oil. So air filter in the petrol. I've put on some mechanics rubber gloves, keep the hands from getting petrol on it. It's not good for you. So what I'm going to do now is just squeeze the air filter, get it all fully soaked up in the petrol, give it a good squeeze, flip it over, give it a good squeeze. Just, this is actually looking pretty decent. There's not much dirt coming out of this, which is great. I wouldn't expect it to be. It's only been in the bike for about 5,000 kilometers. So, the last service I done, I didn't record it, but I did replace air filter, oil, and spark plugs. So every 5,000 kilometers is the recommendation from Benelli. I actually think that's a bit small, but that's only about 3,000 miles. But who am I to question the genius of mechanical engineers and motorcycle manufacturers? So that's the cleaned air filter. It doesn't take an awful lot to clean them. I'm just going to let that dry. It's pretty windy today, so I'll just let that dry in the wind. And looking at the mass of petrol that's left, and you can see, you can see that little line of dirt below the fuel line there. So I might just give it another rinse through, but not very dirty, but yet the cleaning will help. So since I have it, I've used, so you don't actually have to fully remove the airbox, you can just lift it up and out of the way. Then looking down on top of the cylinders, undo this bracket that holds the 2 coil packs in place. That's only held in with the, it's either a 7mm or a 6mm nut. Just move that up out of the way. Then you can take up the coil packs. I've just removed the left cylinder coil pack, and to gauge what size that spark plug is, I've taken one of the new ones, which is a CR8E. This is an NGK plug. These come preset, so I've looked at the settings. I'm happy with the gap, and the socket you need for removing the spark plug is, I don't know if I can focus on this. Sorry now, folks. They call it a 10mm, but it is not 10mm in the conventional sense. It's a 10mm spark plug socket. So I'll get the extension and get the original plug out. The original spark plug that just came out, condition is pretty decent, but it's only been in there for about 5,000 kilometers, and this is the new plug to go in. You have to change over the tip, so this is a screw thread on the new plug, and then you have to change over the tip from the old plug to the new so that the coil pack fits over okay. Folks, fuel tank back on, all the plastics back on, bike started and run. So she's had a full service, foam oil filter washed in petrol and cleaned with the K&N cleaning kit and oiled up using the black oil from the K&N cleaning kit. Spark plugs replaced, oil filter replaced, oil replaced, and the job is done. I'll just get the seat back on. It's a little bit of wood I used for propping up the tank, and I'm going to keep the 2 spark plugs. I'll throw them somewhere under the seat just in case you ever have an issue, and that's it, done. It was actually quite easy. Undo that screw, undo that screw, undo that screw. That panel pries out. There's a screw in there, undo it, undo that, undo that. Same on the right side, the 3 screws on the right. That plastic cover comes off. Take those 2 Allen bolts out. Down in there, take these 2 bolts out, and then the tank comes off. Once the tank is off, you can see the airbox. Change your filter before you lift the airbox or after, whatever suits you. Airbox out to take the spark plugs out. 10mm spark plug spanner to take the spark plugs out. And then the reverse of it all, put it back together, and the job is done. If I wasn't filming, it probably would have taken me an hour, but because I'm filming, I'm starting and stopping and so on. So probably about 2 hours. But give yourself an hour to an hour and a half to do the full service. Hey folks, Dave here from Getting On. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you've liked it, please give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down and maybe comment what you didn't like. Or comment on what you did like if you did like it. So thanks for that, folks. Dave here from Getting On. Until the next one, see you again. Bye-bye.